All right, folks, gather around. We got another discussion here on C's Listening Room. We cover a wide range of topics, whether you know it or not. Today, we're going to discuss ecology and plant life and aquatic life. We're going to talk about seaweed. Well, yes and no. We're not going to talk about ecology or aquatic life, but we are going to talk about seaweed. This is band here from Washington State. And the album is called Weak. W-E-A-K. And there is nothing weak about this album. It's a very incorrectly titled disc. As you can see here, it's got a little live shot of the band here on the front and on the back. A live shot of them. And if you look real closely, you can see my reflection there. So, see, you do it like, oh, let's see, try that. When I was doing a practice run, I was able to get a lot. See, there I am, and see now I'm in the audience now. See, now my face is on the back cover of the album. This group is kind of I would say maybe skater rock, maybe grunge, seeing that they're from Washington. I don't know why I like this album. I really don't. There are no guitar solos in it. There's nothing particularly creative about it. It just works. It's very heavy, but it's not too heavy. It's simple and it's basic. And it has a very live feel to it. It feels like something that was recorded live, like music that could easily be played live. More so than their later works, which are more studio-oriented. This is definitely a bit more of a live feel, but it's tight. Very tight rhythmically. As I said, it's got a very live feel, but you can hear everything clearly. The vocals are mixed properly. The guitars are mixed properly. There are two guitarists. Most of the time, it sounds like there's one on the left, one on the right, basically playing the same thing at the same time. And this is not something that I would normally like because it wouldn't hold my attention and it would sound too much like another group. But there's something about this album. It's got its own identity to it, and it's got just the right mixture. It's recorded just right. It's produced just right. It's mixed just right, so that it's got all the power, and it's got the heaviness, and it's got that fire to it. But it's not like a lot of these indie albums where you can't really make out what they're saying. You can't hear what the guitarist is playing. It's done just right. And maybe that's why I like it. A backstory about this album was I got this in July of 1996. I do remember the exact month I got this because that was when I got my first car. That's a rite of passage for us when we were teenagers. I was 16 years old, and I had just committed to buying my first car, and I was going to actually be getting it, I believe, that Monday. And for that weekend, we took a trip from our home near Detroit to Cleveland, Ohio, to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum. And normally I would have been absolutely just like fixated on all of the music displays, all the exhibits. But since I was going through this rite of passage of getting my first car, and I was all excited about that, I was thinking, oh, this would be a cool place to go to when I could get my car. I'll bring people down here. Yeah, this will be a cool road trip. I was thinking about road trips and how it's a cool place, but it'd be even cooler if the next time I went, I drove, because I could finally. So I was all excited on this trip that we took because I was about to go through this big teenage excitement of getting my first car. And on top of that, we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum. And they had the best record store I'd ever seen, the best CD store. And I had heard of this band because there was a video from Seaweed on Beavis and Butthead. And the animated duo was commenting on it. I don't know if they liked the video or if they didn't like the video. But I heard it and I said, "Hey, I kind of like this. I like this kind of music. I would buy one of their albums." And so it was the video with the bicycles about stolen bikes and bicycle napping and all that. The song was not on this album, but we were at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. My mom gave me like $15 or something, and she said, "Go buy a souvenir." And so I was looking through the music store, and I found Seaweed. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, those guys that were on that episode of Beavis and Butthead." So I bought this album kind of blindly, and I took it home, and I was absolutely amazed at how much I liked it. This is just a solid, heavy album. It's not really heavy metal. It's not really punk. It's kind of got that punk vibe to it. It's not real intricate. It's not real sophisticated. But I would say it's more of a grunge, but it's very in the pocket. As I said, but it's recorded nicely, so it's got a nice clean sound, so you can make out everything that they're saying, make out everything that they're doing. Great album to drive. I've had this on in the car a few times. This is great driving music. It keeps you awake. It keeps you alert. Not a huge fan of Aaron's vocals, but in this context, musically, they really work. I mean, he doesn't have it's kind of higher pitched, but it's not like the heavy metal. No, that's not what they do. It's not like the high-pitched Banshee AC/DC imitation vocals. It's not like the death metal guttural vocals. They're a little higher pitched, but I'm not maybe a huge fan of the sound, but they don't ruin the music either. I usually like something that's got it's got some good soloing and stuff in there. None of that on here. But as a consistent, steady album that hits all the notes just right, that hits the speed, there aren't any ballads, there aren't any real slow songs. There's nothing, it goes at just the right pace and never lets up, never slows down. And when it does slow down, it's heavy enough where you don't even notice it. I would say Stagger is probably one of my... Stagger and Taxing are probably my two favorites on the album. Clean Slate's probably one of the slower songs. Taxing might be too. The lyrics try to be intellectual, but with music like this, you just listen to it for the rhythm, for just the flow. You don't really listen to the lyrics. I could probably give it a good review. I could probably give it a good rating for attempt at songwriting, but I think musically it stands up on its own. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the way that it's got that live feel without the muddy, dirty, distorted, messy live sound. It's got that real rhythmic sound. It doesn't really have a lot of fills, or it has fills, but fill-ins, but it doesn't have like solos and massive guitar leads and stuff, which their later albums do have. It's one of those albums where you listen to it. It's got great rhythms to it. If you like it, and you know you like it immediately. If you don't like it, you know it. The minute I listen to it, I'm like, hey, this starts off pretty cool, and it never, ever let up. It never slowed down. The entire thing is just beginning to end, solid, consistent, and it's recorded just right. So it's not too extreme on this end, too extreme on this end. The vocals aren't too extreme with the Banshee thing. Like, it's not the Cookie Monster guttural thing. It's not... It doesn't have... It's just stripped down to the bare essentials. Heavy, but not death metal heavy. Kind of a grunge sound, but not depressing like grunge. Kind of like an intellectual grunge with a skateboard with a skateboard rock, something you could skateboard to, something you could drive to. It's hard to describe it, but this is an album I will put on every couple years, and I will still say this is solid. This is rock solid. Rock solid 90s grungy skate rock. Again, very poorly named album. There's nothing weak about Seaweed's Weak. I wish I could describe it better. Just accept this description and my poor attempt at explaining why I think it works. 5 out of 5. 5 stars. Rock solid. 5 stars out of 5 stars. Go download it now. Listen to it. That's all for today. I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching C's Listening Room.